goodness.
Oh, well.
I know I'm fine, but the money makes me handsomer. Walk around.
So it goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Do not do this at home.
There we go. We got the mic live. Lilith, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. We're going to wait for this intro to finish up here.
I need a lot of
And I'll tell you guys as much as I can remember about my trip to Europe. I feel like I recorded a bunch of stuff. You know what? I'll save it. I'll save it until I'm actually on camera so you guys can see how excited I
42
am.
minutes to make a drink on stream. Just 42.
Hair was so long back then.
I don't like short hair, Nico. Bring back the long hair. It's actually,
Yeah,
it's actually
that's what I
I
want.
have good news, and I have
only good news.
I only have good news.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Nico. I go by CoinTrick and CoinTrick Twitch online. And today is my first day back behind this bar since I went to Europe for a week on vacation and to propose to my girlfriend, and she said yes. So, I'm on cloud 9. Everything's coming up aces. A few things went awry while I was gone. Not as far as social media goes and as far as like my job and stuff goes. But we did have some trouble getting back into the US. and we were nearly stuck in Switzerland, and I can answer some questions about that if you guys want. But first, it's about y'all. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Julian Capulet, thank you for tuning back in. Lilith, thank you for tuning back in, guys. I do appreciate it. Today, the main thing that I have, let me hit record on my hard drive. We're going to find out very quickly if there's enough space on that hard drive to record this entire live stream or not, because I don't remember. Today, the main thing that we have planned is that I'm going to taste the golden ale that we have been working on for the last about a month and a half now, I think. A month and 3 weeks, I think, actually. And this one, you can tell, actually, if we look at camera 1. Come on, there we go. That is a 1, meaning this is the first bottle that we actually bottled when we did the whole process. I don't know how it's gonna turn out. The very first thing that we have to worry about is whether or not it's carbonated, because if it's not carbonated, then it's just flat beer, and it might taste fine, but it won't feel like beer when you drink it. I have this one, I put another one in the fridge, and then all of the rest of them are still at room temperature because that's how you should taste beer, in my opinion. And I'll tell you guys about the beer and stuff that I had while I was in Europe as well. Gucci, what is up, man? Welcome back. Shout out to Jerome Powell for making printer go brrrr. Gucci, thank you for tuning back in. It's good to have you back. I'm gonna try and open this up. Bear with me. We're gonna cut to camera 2 for this tense moment. Let me see if I can do a picture-in-picture so that everyone can fully appreciate my reaction here. Come on, I just want that. Psst. That's all I want. Yes! Yes! Oh god, that feels good. Oh, that's right. I'm not bartending right now. That's still a reflex that I have from where my pocket used to be when I was bartending. That's where I'd keep my beer tool, right next to my butthole. Anyway, so the carbonation is there. That's a good sign. It smells really fresh. I get a lot of like fruit, like fresh berry notes on this. Yeah, like ripe berries, actually. Let me see if I can find like a chalice glass for this. I do have one. Okay, camera 2. Good so far. Kind of a weak head retention. That's okay. It might be better when we pour it from a cold bottle. There we are. That already looks better than I thought it was going to look. I'm always anxious, whether it's a beer that I make or a cider or anything that I make by myself, even if it's a cocktail that I've made 1,000 times. I'm always a little bit nervous that it's going to turn out poorly. This one's probably going to be fine, but I'm really hoping it tastes great. Cheers, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. Raise them if you got them. You don't have to have a glass. And if you do have a glass, it does not have to have alcohol in it. But thank you all for tuning in. Sticking around, making this all possible. Cheers. And here's to you.
I just hit boom. Wow.
Actually, wow. That is full. It's got some sweetness. I'll walk you guys through one of the main reasons why this shouldn't have worked. Really quickly. Camera 3, please. Mike, what is up? Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the new follow. I appreciate it. And Shaven Duck, thank you for the new follow and thank you for tuning in. Smell vanilla. This is vanilla vodka, isn't it? No, it's water. I put a shot glass because you are going to. That's fair. I haven't yet so far. We'll see when that happens. When, not if. So this actually tastes really good. There are a few reasons that it probably shouldn't have. Chiefly, among all things, I didn't sanitize as many things as I could have or should have. This is one of those do not do as I do moments. The other thing, a couple of experimental things that we did with this brew. And you should never experiment with one thing at a time, but rules were meant to be broken, and I was born broken, so here we are. the Sagittari, welcome, thank you for tuning in, and I pray that I'm pronouncing your name correctly, and if I'm not, please correct me. And by the way, before I get going, if anyone has any preferred pronouns or anything like that, please let me know ahead of time. Let me know sooner rather than later. Otherwise, all of you will become man, dude, and guy, which in my brain is not a gender thing, that's just what I default to. I apologize in advance. If you do have any preferences, please let me know as soon as you can. I'm not going to be offended. Nobody should, and if they are, I'll ban them. The other reason that this shouldn't have worked, the other experiment that we ran, was I used pure agave syrup as my priming sugar. Just like store-bought agave off of a shelf. Normally, a priming sugar specifically is a blend of, I think it's glucose and sucralose. It is some blend of those that allows those sugars to be broken down by the yeast to produce alcohol and carbonation without affecting the flavors. I ignored that, which is probably why this one actually has a pleasant sweetness to it. It is not overly sweet. It's not sweet the way that you would expect candy to be sweet. It's sweet the way that you would expect like a perfectly ripe, like dry pear to be quote unquote sweet. So it's not sweet like sugar. It's not quite sweet like fruit or juice or candy or any of those things. It just has a hint of that sweetness, which is actually really good. It's the best beer I've had since I was in Belgium, which was like less than 2 weeks ago. Long time no see. Chazzy, welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. Personal Paradox, welcome back. How's it going? It's been a while, but I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to have you back. And this is probably the most energy you've seen me have in a long time, because I am fresh off of a vacation. I have a lot of things to talk about and a lot of stuff to catch up with you guys on. I really wanted to go live while I was gone. It was hard for several reasons. One, my international data plan, worthless. Like, nothing, didn't do anything. They were like, hey, we noticed that you were abroad, we're going to charge you $10 a day so that you can access all of your regular features, all of your unlimited data, unlimited calling, and I was like, yeah, that sounds great. I got none of those things. And I couldn't fix it until I had Wi-Fi either. So I constantly had to have Wi-Fi. So the only places I would have been able to live stream from would have been on a TGV train, like a high-speed train that they have on the Eurail, which would have drawn the ire of a lot of the rest of the passengers, because on the train we learned very quickly it is rude to be loud. You are supposed to keep to yourself. The only other time I would have been able to live stream would have been from the Airbnbs or from the Ambassador Bar, which is not, it's a great club. Kurt, thank you for, sir, thank you for tuning in. Let me know how you want your username pronounced. Thank you for the new follow, I appreciate it. The Instagram posts were nice, thank you, I appreciate it. How was the vacation? Incredibly relaxing. Stressful at sometimes, but it's nice to be able to work towards something that you know you want, and you know what the outcome is going to be. Whereas, like, when you show up to your job, you're just working for a paycheck, I guess, if that makes sense. Kisser. Hey, yo. By the way, let me know, quickly, how do you want your username pronounced? Because I don't want to keep butchering it. I'm not here trying to, like, patronize people. Jake, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Jake, by the way, in chat is Knife Kill. But the vacation was really good. I just went with my girlfriend. We let our family and friends watch our daughter for 6 days while we were gone. We were actually in Europe proper for only about 5 days. So we were moving. We spent a lot of time on planes, trains, and automobiles. But it ended up being very good. Two things that we ended up missing out on because we were just exhausted from hopping between train platforms and trying to get on the right Uber and like learning all of the quote-unquote, we decided to start calling these things mini games, because every single train station has different rules, and every city has different rules for each of their train stations. Tell me I'm wrong. I would like to be wrong. I would love nothing more than to be an idiot in this specific instance. But the train stations, there are 2 different train stations in Paris that we had to go to, and they both had different rules. There were 2 other train stations in France that we had to go to that also had entirely different rules, and sometimes we didn't even have our tickets checked. So because of that, we ended up getting very wound up on a couple of technicalities as far as the rules go, which is kind of annoying. But all in all, we made it through, and we did make it home by some small miracle. We were actually very nearly stuck in Switzerland. Not because of any quarantine rules or anything like that, but because the guidelines that they had set forth on the apps and the online stuff that we were using to check into our flights either weren't up to date or weren't specific enough. They were mistranslated, probably maybe, because we were in a French-speaking part of the world. So we didn't know that in order to get back into the U.S., it was a U.S. guideline that we had to have a negative COVID test within 24 hours. Even if we had just gotten a booster less than a week ago, and we were able to travel freely throughout Europe the entire time. We got into France pretty freely. We moved between cities in France really easily. We got from France to Belgium, Belgium to France, France to Switzerland really easily. The only time that we went through customs was when we were coming back to the US, and France only stamped our passport when we were flying through Paris to go back to the US. So that like the travel stuff was stressful, but it ended up being worth it. But many really good takeaways, like many things that we learned from the trip, obviously, because it is a trip that we want to repeat, not exactly repeat. We don't necessarily want to go back to Geneva, Switzerland, but the nature of the trip we want to repeat again, hopefully in the relatively near future. For me, biggest takeaway, I proposed to my girlfriend and she said yes, so I'm now engaged. Sorry, ladies and a few gentlemen. So I'm now engaged, which is great. I proposed to her on Lake Geneva on the last night that we were there. I'll gush about that later. Another big thing is my girlfriend and her magnanimity, which I think is the right word that hopefully I'm using it correctly. Thank you for the congrats, guys. I appreciate it. My girlfriend agreed to plan with me a trip even though we were landing in Switzerland, we both really wanted to see my family in Belgium. I have hardly spoken to them, and I have not seen them in almost 30 years. And in that time, unfortunately, my dad died, and he was that tether to that side of the family. They all speak French, Flemish, a few other languages. Some of them speak English. But it's always been sort of like this weird invisible barrier between us. So I figured if I was only going to be a few hundred miles away from them, I owe it to my family to try to go up and see them, communicate with them, reconnect with them, get back a little piece of my father that I haven't been able to really connect with in a long time. And that's better than, being 4,000 miles away, which is actually a little bit more than 4,000 miles away from there currently here in North Carolina. And my girlfriend agreed. She said, you know what, you're right. We have to try to go and see them and see as many of them as possible and spend as much time with them as we can. So my aunt Ingrid actually helped put a lot of this stuff together. She was my go-between to talk to the rest of the family because a few of them speak they say no English, but they understand a little bit. A few of them speak no English. A lot of them speak a little bit. A few of them speak a decent amount of English. Ingrid speaks probably the most, or at least she's the most capable of just immediately translating stuff very quickly. So she was our go-between to the rest of the family. She was setting everything up. My cousin Reggie actually reached out to me, and he said, hey, sorry my English isn't that great, first of all, which is funny to me because my French is way worse than his English. And then he said, if there was one thing that you could do while you were in Belgium, because our family is trying to figure out I kind of like what to do with you when you get here, what do you want to do? And so my response, and I didn't want to sound milquetoast about it, but like my response was kind of like, honestly, we haven't seen any of you in almost 30 years. We just want to spend as much time with you as possible. And he said, yeah, okay, that's great. If you could do one thing in Belgium, what would it be? and I said, okay, if you're gonna, twist my arm, I would like to go to St. Sixtus Abbey, which is, unfortunately, it's a 30-minute drive from Comines, which is where my family was. And he said, don't worry about it, we'll figure it out. Thank you for that answer. St. Sixtus, by the way, if you guys don't know, is a Trappist monastery brewery in Belgium. It's one of the most exclusive, if not the most exclusive. They have only sold their beer in the United States once. Ever. The only time, we'll cut to camera one for this, the only time that St. Sixtus sold their beer in the United States was December 2012. And it was St. Sixtus 12, or West Fulton 12. I have one of their bottles back here. They did it as a promotion. Those of you who really know me and have really been paying attention know that was the year that my dad died. So, gloss over that for 1 second. When it was available in the U.S., it was I turned 21 that November. So I had never really had a reason to go out to anywhere to buy anything expensive for myself or other people. I was in the car with my brother, I think driving home from the gym, and my dad called us at some relatively odd hour to ask your children to buy beer for you. He called us at 11 in the morning, and he was like, hey, listen, there's this really one-of-a-kind beer that's coming from Belgium. It's 30 minutes outside of my hometown, and it's never available in the US, but you can only buy one per person, so I need both of you to go to the Total Wine. He gave us the address and everything, and he said, buy as much as you can, and I will pay you back when I can. My dad never got to pay me back, and he never got to share that beer with me. So, fast forward to when I was going to Belgium, this past, about a week ago now, I guess. My family, they were giving me all of these trinkets from my dad's past, not his report cards, because they didn't have that when my dad was, it was fresh out of World War II. They didn't have report cards, but they sent me his, they showed me his, class standings from when he was in elementary school, and his degrees from the Catholic University of Louvain and Clemson University. When he went to Louvain, he went for a master's degree in civil engineering, and when he was in Clemson, he went for a master's degree in international business. Top of his class both times. Which I'd heard of all the time from my family, and I just thought they were, embellishing. They weren't. Fully true. Super proud of my dad in that moment. And I was fine until my, I think it was my aunt, grabbed this box that I couldn't see. She grabbed it out of this dark corner and put it in front of me. And I'll show you the box really quick, actually. I'll be right back. So she grabs this. I called it St. Sixtus before, which is the name of the abbey technically. The brewery is Westfältren. This is more recognizable to Americans anyway. There's some really cool stuff about this. I may be one of the only people in the US that has a box like this for many reasons, not least of which because if you open this up and you look at these bottles, there is no label, which means, and hopefully I'm not throwing anybody under the bus here, I don't want anyone to lose their job over this. These were bottles that were meant for sale, that came directly off of the line before they could be labeled. They're cold right now, and I actually prefer to drink these at room temperature. I only have 3 bottles left. I've drank half of them. I drank one immediately with my family in Belgium because I was bawling, crying, and it felt like the right thing to do, and it felt really good. I had one here with my mom the day we got back, and I just shared one with my brother, Jean-Luc. So all really heartfelt experiences. I have half of this left. I'm gonna cherish them, and I still think I have 2 bottles of the West Fulton 12 from 9 years ago that are probably terrible now. They definitely have lees and things at the bottom because the yeast in these are still active. But yeah, when I saw this, I couldn't keep it all in. Everything, like all of the emotions and everything caught up to me. I think what I tried to tell my family was, I'm crying. I was trying to simplify emotions, which is very, very difficult to do. But I wanted them to understand I'm crying because I'm sad because my dad isn't here. But I am more happy than I am sad because I feel like I have a significant part of my dad back. This feels like reclaiming and reconnecting with a lot of his heritage and things that were important to him, and getting a lot of that stuff back and reconnecting with it, which all felt really good. It was just a lot of emotion. And even though I hadn't really spoken to them or seen them in 30 years, everyone got it. They were just like, okay, go cry, do what you need to do. I made them cry later on. That's a story for another time. All good tears. But now I can't wait to go back, and it really made me want to see the rest of my family too. Does it taste better than the Golden Ale? Yes. Duh. Yes, it tastes so much better than the Golden Ale. But this actually tastes very, very good. By the way, congrats on the engagement from M. Oh, by the way, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you for the congrats. Jake says, and I'm here just drinking a Bud Light. Hey, Jake, you know what? I can show you how to make beer. It's not hard. The latest cheat code that we learned is to use agave syrup instead of priming sugar. Didn't expect beer to make me cry today for this reason. Winter Gunpla. Yo, what Gunpla do you have? Also, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. I had 2 down here. My brother and I have been working on a couple. He may have finished his because he lives here and I don't. Wait, you said you proposed near Lake Geneva, right? I proposed on Lake Geneva at the, this is going to sound morbid, but I proposed at the Brunswick Mausoleum. Now, before anyone gives me a hard time for essentially proposing in a graveyard, and don't tell Hannah that I did that because that may have washed over her, the Brunswick Mausoleum is actually a replica of a monument in Verona, Italy. And Hannah is, more than anything, culturally, besides American, because this is where she was born and raised, her family is very strongly Italian, or they identify very strongly as Italian. This is one of the reasons why I proposed there. Also, it was one of the few places that I could get her to turn around and not look at me while I was fumbling and trying to figure out where I had left the ring. Smoke alarm is going crazy. Shout out to the Burnt Food. Hey, yo, Burnt Food. Thank you for keeping it lit. Appreciate you. Also, get to safety. Hannah's watching. She knows. Oh, hey, Hannah! She knew it was a mausoleum. That was mostly a joke for you guys. I told her it was a mausoleum because she... the first full day that we had in Switzerland, which originally was supposed to be our snowboarding day, we woke up and I rolled over in bed and looked at her and I said, hey, are you tired? Because, like, we had jumped on trains and trains and trains and trains and trains. We had, like, sprinted through. We had to... In order to get to our Airbnb, we had to take a train from Lille Europe in France, which is the train station, to Paris Gare de Lyon, which is the train station in Paris that is supposed to go to Lyon, I think. And we had to take an Uber from there. Oh no, we got to Paris Garnold. Paris Garnold, or like North Paris station. From there, we needed to get an Uber to Paris Gare de Lyon, which is a 25-minute Uber ride, or a 1-hour walk, which is a lie, because it was the longest Uber ride of my life. But also, I've never, like, we were driven by some dude who could have been the transporter. Like, we were driven by some sort of Jason Statham motherfucker. He was just going in and out of traffic. There was a certain point, I think, where he realized we were going to be late, because the estimate was that it was supposed to be a 30-minute Uber ride. And he was like, no, listen. I get you there in 25 minutes. And I think about halfway through, he looked at the clock, and he was just like, oh, no. This isn't gonna do it all. And, like, I literally felt him step on the gas. Oh, I love that guy. God. Abel Kader, I think was his name. I can't remember exactly. Gucci, thank you for cheering bits, by the way. I appreciate it. Dude, my cousin proposed to his girlfriend, now wife, on Lake Geneva too. Specifically, the Brunswick Monument, because they're both massive physics nerds. And he said something along the lines of, right under us is the Large Hadron Collider. And it's where some of the most important discoveries in the world have to be made. So what better place to ask you to be part of my world? Corny ass motherfucker. Hey, so mine wasn't nearly uninvolved. My speech was very, very short. I said to Hannah as we were looking over Lake Geneva, I said, you know, I brought you here because I want you to know that I want to give you the world. And she was like, oh, that's so sweet. And I think at this, because it was like our last day in Geneva, she actually thought I had forgotten the ring. And so I reached into my pocket and I said, I can't give you the world right now, I think is what I said. But I can give you something small. And I got down on one knee and I showed her the ring, and that was enough. And she just said yes. And I didn't even let me put the ring on her finger. Just grabbed it, put it on her finger, scooped me up, and then I took her to a nice steakhouse dinner at Le Chiffre, which is this nice steakhouse that's right on Lake Geneva, which is the most expensive meal we had while we were there. But it was all worth it. We had a really nice view, and because we're both service industry people, even though we didn't speak a whole lot of French, they were very impressed at how well we could navigate the language, because Hannah essentially works in a steakhouse. We both have extensive knowledge of wine and aperitifs and things like that. So they had no idea who we were, but they definitely wanted to know, which was interesting. And Hannah spent the entire night taking photos of... No, that's disingenuous to her. She spent a significant amount of time taking photos of her ring, and she would go to take photos of the food, and then she would go... which I thought was actually really cute. And don't make me start crying. Hey, you cry if you need to cry. Bruh, I got an ad just as he was reciting the big speech. Bezos really hates wholesome moments. It's not really a big speech. The gist of it basically was, I told her, I want to give you the world, and I can't right now, but I can give you this small piece of me. And that I gave her the ring. Gemma is watching you and smiling. Hey, Gemma! Hold on, wait, we're gonna get... Hey, Gemma! It's Uncle Nico. I'm really far away right now, and I'm sorry. You used to be closer by, kind of, sort of, not really. But hopefully soon. Hopefully we'll see you soon. I should be, God willing, Hannah and I will be in TwitchCon in, I think it's early October. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. And we're gonna try, especially after this trip to Geneva, we kind of realized, camera 3, we kind of realized that, we're the kind of people that need a significant amount of time to really take everything in. We cheated ourselves out of a lot of quality time that we could have had while we were in Geneva, because we were trying to be pirate adventurers and just like move. The next time that we go on a vacation like that, here we go. The next time we take a long trip like that, even if we're just going to TwitchCon, we're probably actually going to take about a 10-day vacation. So there's going to be a little bit of buffer time on either side. And I would like to use a little bit of that time to visit you guys in Texas if possible. Winter Gunpla Coin Trick, you build Gunpla? Yeah, I do. Hold on, I'll be right back. I'll show you what I'm building right now. So these are the ones I have. This one I actually gifted to John Luke, and they're not God hands, but they do well for clipping things apart. These both are from Gundam Build Divers. I think the second iteration of the series, not the original one. I can't remember the hero that drives this pilots this one. This is Kazami's Gundam. This is the one that I'm building. Gundam Justice Knight. I have not made a whole lot of progress on this one because I have to try and build it kind of in my free time. So I have the torso. We'll do camera one for this one. There we go. Oh, come on! Come on! There we go. There he is. Look at him. Isn't he a sweet boy? Focus on me. I have the hip joints, I think, and I've got the legs, but there's a lot that this guy still needs to be able to be kind of stable, so I am waiting until I have the time to finish that. Also, I don't ever work on these alone. It's something that my brother and I kind of share time on a lot. Those were two that I bought. I'm going to keep John Luke's on top of mine because his is a little bit more complicated, even though they're both, I think, real grade. High grade. They're both high grade. The last real grade that I made, I think, was this is real grade. The last one that I made, I think, was a Gundam Red frame that I finished to my liking. And then this was a gift, actually, and you can tell none of this stuff is open because if you've ever made one of these at this quality before, it is like you need to set aside an afternoon alone with headphones on and your phone on airplane mode to be able to finish one of these. There's a lot of detail and a lot of parts and things that need to move to be able to get this done. It's the Isle Strike Gundam. My girlfriend has one of these too, and I have another one that I plan to build with her. On top of these, and it's not Gunpla, but I do have a model kit for a TIE Fighter, I think. Some sort of Star Wars vehicle, I don't remember which one. But yeah, I am a nerd. I'm gonna put these back now. Well, that's slightly terrifying. I made the mistake of putting that in the freezer. Shout out to Hannah, who now... Shout out to Hannah, who now has to spend a lifetime listening to Nico snore and fart. Happy for y'all. To be fair, she's been spending the last... Come on. She's been spending the last about year and a half listening to me do those things. It's not as, it's the sweating in my sleep that I think I'm most self-conscious about. I can't help it. I'm not, it's not graphic, hopefully, right? I do sweat a lot in my sleep, occasionally. I can't predict it. We can't really pin down why it's happening. But there's like maybe 3 or 4 nights a week that I wake up in like a puddle of my own sweat. Gotta get a cooling pad. Can I post a link? No. Links are going to be suppressed. And even if you did, I wouldn't be able to click on it because you may have noticed I don't have a computer or anything in front of me. I am reading chat off of a TV that I have up here. Jake says, that would be awesome, man. We can find shit to do here. Six Flags would be cool to go to. Hey, maybe that'll be my bachelor party. Maybe, I don't know. I feel like I'd like to do something, like, more tame for my bachelor party, like, build Gundam and, like, play D&D. I feel like I would actually really enjoy that, to be completely honest. And at that point, hopefully, I will be knee-deep in this this campaign that myself and some large D&D creators are about to kick off. I am not really super sure why they invited me to do this specifically, other than I have a lot of experience DMing, because they've invited me to be a player. But I'm keen. I'm excited to do this. I don't want to give away too much about who I'm playing with, because we're still waiting on a lot of stuff to go through, and I don't want anyone harassing them or me about, like, hey, when are you gonna do the first episode? What kind of character are you playing? Because I think one of us still hasn't really made up their mind. And all of the players that we have are what we call in the D&D community forever DMs. A forever DM is somebody that you do, maybe you know them, maybe you don't. A forever DM is someone who decided to DM for their friends, typically, and because of that, is de facto dungeon master or game master in all of the games, because no one else feels the need or wants to learn how to do it. Granted, they scratch different itches, but eventually, like, so much time spent as a DM, you do kind of want the feeling of being a more mechanical individual part of a story. So that's why it's nice to be able to be a player every once in a while. I don't know how much information I can give you guys. We are playing a run off of Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. We're allowed to use all of the official source books. We're also allowed to use the Dark Gifts section where it is applicable to our characters. And I'll tell you about my character because I feel like that's relatively safe. My character... There are some secrets about my character that I'm not going to tell you guys because I don't want my teammates to know about it either. Mostly because it's going to be a really fun story moment for everybody. But my character is everyone's starting at level 5. So I'm a level 5 Way of Mercy monk. And I am a half wood elf. Now, I was really fortunate. I rolled really well on my stats. I rolled well enough on my stats that I asked my DM if I could roll again because I didn't want any of the players to feel antagonistic toward me. And my DM was basically like, you know what? I don't honestly think this is the kind of group of people who are trying to power game anything. And because I'm playing a monk, and because of the weapon that I'm going to use specifically, he was like, dude, you're going to need every advantage you can get. So, I'm using a variant of a variant rule from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything called Dedicated Weapon for monks, which allows you to focus your ki on a specific weapon, turning that weapon into a monk weapon for you, which allows you to roll your martial arts die instead of the weapon's typical damage die. So what this does, in theory, is if you had a dagger, you could focus on that dagger in the morning, it would become your monk weapon, and at level 5, that dagger would do 1d6 damage, or 1 6-sided die damage, instead of 1d4 damage, or 1 4-sided die damage. So what I've done is I've decided to make darts my dedicated weapon. And if you know anything about D&D, and you know anything about darts, it's the worst weapon that you could have. And I've decided to do that. I've decided to use the worst weapon with Borderline the worst class that you can play to prove a point that nothing is terrible in D&D. you can make anything work as long as you're creative enough and if you're playing with the right people. And I believe that I am, and I believe that we are playing with the right group of people here. I'm excited. I'm so excited. So I'm playing a level 5 monk. We have a gunslinger cleric multi-class. We have a School of Illusion wizard, who's really cool. Hopefully they don't kill me for talking about the characters, but none of these things seem to really be secret. By the way, the gunslinger cleric multi-class is also a life cleric, so even though I'm Way of Mercy, we're actually going to be splitting heals between the two of us. They can actually ranged heal with spells. I have to touch things to be able to heal them. And gunslinger, wizard. Oh, we have a Winter Illidrin ranger. She's playing Fey Wanderer. We have a Path of the Beast barbarian, which is really pulls at my heartstrings because that was the last player character that I got to play, was a Path of the Beast barbarian Rune Knight fighter multi-class. That was Orin, and some of you may remember Orin. That is... I'm excited for that. He's also... The race that he's playing is Kobold, so we're going to see how that goes. So he's basically a tank, I think. And then the other one is... I don't want to name names because I don't want anyone going on a witch hunt trying to figure out these details. The sixth person hasn't really divulged what they want to play. Because we're all, like, former full-time or still full-time dungeon masters, all of our characters are kind of, like, nebulously between roles. The closest thing that we have to one person performing one specific role is the barbarian, who is, like, very much supposed to be our tank. But the rest of us are, like, melee DPS, range DPS, heals, spellcasting, RP, like skill checking. It's a combination of a bunch of different things. So we're all excited for that too. Before we do that, we will do we'll do a single one shot, which to my knowledge won't be live streamed, unfortunately. Just to see where everyone's goals are and what our play styles are like, and see how we're going to mesh together and see what our needs and wants out of the game are going to be like. But we have to play that at level 1, and we're not allowed to play the characters that we have planned for the actual campaign itself. So because of that, I'm recycling an NPC from a homebrew world that I have called QR8R. And hopefully everyone thinks he's charming. Hopefully. They might not. He's kind of like C-3PO. Episode 0. Yeah, except it's not going to be aired as far as I know. They're running that as kind of like a tech check also to make sure that our microphones and everything are fine. I'm not going to be live streaming those from here. That is probably, as far as I'm aware, it's going to be taking over my Tuesday time slot, and I'm going to be doing that from the home studio where I have a better audio recording setup. Kelly Dog 2010, thank you for tuning in, thank you for the new follow, I appreciate it. But QR8R is actually, he's a Warforged. I think originally when I designed him, he was meant to be a bard multi-class of some kind. But I decided for a first level it would be more fun to play him as a knowledge domain cleric. But whenever I think of a character, I try and think of an orienting phrase. And some of them are very, very short. So for Orin, his orienting phrase was, meaning like the phrase that I used to get into character, was, "My name is Orin Usu." And that was his orienting phrase. For QR8R, his orienting phrase is a lot longer. His is, "My name is QR8R, Curator, but you may call me Q. What is your query? My directive is to store, collect, and distribute information when necessary." And that's his orienting phrase. If I can do that and think of that, I can stay in character. I don't have that quite yet for the character that I'm about to play for the main campaign, but I'm excited to figure out what that's going to sound like. Lucid Dreamer, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. How's it going? Or welcome back, I should say. He sounds very punchable. Yeah, his voice is based on Richard Ayoade from the IT Crowd. But I can't, also I'm really congested, so I can't really get closer to Richard's voice. Curator. Curator. But you may call me Q. What is your query? My prime directives are to store... What is it? No. Collect, store, and redistribute information when necessary.
I just hate
Boss Frankie, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the new follow. I appreciate it. Cheers. For my current character, his name's Alden. I really wanted, I always told myself after Orin that my next character would speak with a German, or Germanic accent of some kind. But it's, it doesn't really feel like it fits right. I feel like he's gonna end up sounding either like, kind of like Severus Snape, or McCree from Overwatch. So his voice is either gonna be like, my name's Alden Peace Knights, or God, Snape's voice is really hard for me to do. Or Alan Rickman, I should say. Alan Rickman's voice is very hard for me to do, especially when I'm sick. My name is Alden Peace Knights. So it's going to be somewhere between those two, and I don't know which one exactly. But either way, a German accent doesn't really... It just doesn't feel like it fits there. My name is Alden Peace Knights. It's sort of like all spoken from right here. De ver todas esas botellas me das... Lo siento. He's saying, seeing all of the bottles makes him thirsty. Oye, qué pena. Pues puedo hacer un traguito si quieres. Pues para mí, un traguito para mí. I'm saying I could do a shot for myself, if you want. Lo siento, mi español está bon. No está tan bien, no está tan bueno. Algo con Malibu es muy bien. Bueno. Yeah, agree to disagree. Pues Malibu es más o menos para mí. Yo casi nunca lo uso. Si yo quisiera hacer un traguito, quisiera hacer un traguito, yo hago algo como Bacardi, así, sin complicarlo. Yo tengo menos inglés que el Chavo de 8. Bueno, no te preocupes, mi español no está tan malo. Entiendo casi todo. Casi todo. Also, everyone in chat, you're still welcome to speak English. Ou français? J'ai parlé un petit français aussi. Mais je comprends un petit français. Je comprends? Compris? Je comprends? Something like that. You're coming home with me. That actually is probably gonna come home with me. Gotta let you flex those muscles sometimes. What? Oh, like... so congested. You mean speaking multiple languages? Spanish brain. Spanish is a lot more fluent for me than French. El Bacardi también está delicioso. Pues... it's fine. Está... ok. Está ok. Y nada más de eso. It's okay, and not more than that. I learned something interesting when I was in Belgium, ironically. My cousin Reggie told me this. I looked at him, because he understood and he could translate a decent amount of English to French. And I said, Reggie, qu'est-ce que c'est, que significa that in anglais? And he was like, quoi? And I said, comment tu parles that in anglais? And he was like, oh, ça. And suddenly I had like a brain blast, because that's why you say c'est all the time, C''est. It's because you're actually saying that is. Also, if you were saying ça va, it means it goes. It goes, that goes, whatever. It's the same shit. Sure. So, shouts out to Reggie. And hopefully, God willing, and with many blessings, we'll have him or some of my other family members here in the States at some point. But, camera one. Get in focus here. Raise them if you got them. You don't have to have a glass, and if you do have a glass, you do not have to have alcohol in it. But thank you all for tuning in, sticking around, showing up. I do appreciate your support. Here's to you all for tuning in. Cheers. Tastes like gasoline. I don't speak enough Japanese to try and read that. Typically when I see something in a foreign language, I don't try and immediately read it out loud, because I have had a few people try and like gotcha with certain stuff. Only one of those words even looks familiar to me. The only phrase that I can remember in Japanese is Onara wa opai. Wait, no. Onara wa oki opai desu, which means you have very nice breasts. So as you can imagine, I can't really use that very often in conversation. I do also remember gomenasai, or gome, which just means sorry. It says, great job, Nico. Oh, thank you. Acá en Argentina, el Bacardi. Oh, ¿vives en Argentina? Pues lo siento que no tengo Fernet. Acá en Argentina el Bacardi es el ron que más se conoce, junto con el Havana. Pues aquí en Carolina del Norte no tenemos el Havana. El Habana. O sea, si eres argentina, de Argentina, sabes que es Fernet, ¿no? Oh my god, there was, the first night we were in Switzerland, actually, yeah, okay, so you know. The first night that we were in Geneva, there was a club attached to our Airbnb, which we didn't know. We accidentally walked in the back door, which should have been locked, but it wasn't. We have many stories from that club. But, El Branca, yes. I may have had some of that before I came here. But in the club, I've never had to use more of my brain to just try and communicate with people in my entire life. Thank God, the owner of the club, his name's Lat. The club that we went to, by the way, was L'Ambassadeur. Leambasseur. If you guys want to try and find it, I'm following them on Instagram now. You can find them on my Instagram too. They didn't pay me to post about them, but I really love the venue, and I really like the owner too. So we went in there one night. In about 4 hours, I had to translate back and forth between English, French, Spanish, and German. I was just there for the ride for the most part. Luckily, there were 3 women there that were actually from the UK. Oh no! Oh, I'm so sorry, ladies. I forgot. I remember Laura's name, and I remember the other 2. I just can't remember their names. I'm so sorry. But I remember 2 of them were from Newcastle. One of them was from Leeds. So I do remember you, ladies. I just forgot your names. I'm sorry. There was a man from Zimbabwe, and there was another man at the bar who recognized me from TikTok in Geneva, Switzerland. What? And what's weird is he didn't. You know what? Actually, that's disingenuous to him. I'm sure he spoke and understood a decent, like a vast amount of English. He just didn't speak that much English with me, which was weird. But it was almost weirder that he recognized me. But it was because of that, and a few other. We got very close with the owner of the club because we were staying nearby, and we constantly ran into him and we would talk to him, and his English was impeccable. He would tell you otherwise, but we understood everything he said all the time. So, because of that, I actually got to bartend in Geneva, which was like a weird, mind-blowing, once-in-a-lifetime experience for me. I say once in a lifetime. Hopefully he would let me do it again if I went back. But that was super cool. So I'm happy about that. And I got to teach him a little bit about just like general mixology and stuff like that too. And he was like, dude, now that I know that you know so much, I'm going to try and find your videos. And I said, good luck, because they're very boring. At least like the ones that I do on YouTube, the ones that are like mixology driven, I'm very dry because I'm very like academic and clinical about like what works and what doesn't work in cocktails and what my procedure is like. I'm not very much like, hey, if this isn't working, do this instead. I'm kind of just like, hey, there's a different approach for everybody. If you taste this, try this. If you taste this, try this. That doesn't work for everybody, but that's just how my brain works. That's how I'm wired. El Fernet es un hermano del Jägermeister. Yeah, no. Se parece bastante. No, pues el Fernet creo que no tiene tanto azúcar. Por lo menos no tiene tanto azúcar. Y también el Fernet es de Italia. Y Jägermeister es de Alemania. Son distintos. Son muy distintos. En mi opinión. In my opinion. Pero lleva hierbas. Sí, yeah, but like... Sí, pues hay tantas cosas que lleva hierbas. El Jägermeister es algo que creo que se tomó así nomás para emborracharse. Y el Fernet no es así. El Fernet es algo que se toma para ayudarse a comer más. ¿Tengo razón? Does it make sense? Llegó acá por medio de Raúl. Oh, Raúl, okay. I haven't seen his videos in a while. Bueno, pero bienvenido. Es que los videos de Raúl no los ha visto en un tiempo. Pues creo que no. Estoy tratando de reconocer. I'm trying to remember the other Spanish-speaking bartenders. Los otros bartenders que hablan español aquí en Twitch. Creo que puede ser que solo soy yo. Y Raúl. No sé que Raúl stream here aquí en Twitch. It's refreshing to speak Spanish because my French was just terrible. By the way, Geneva, in Switzerland, I didn't mention it. In Switzerland, they have 4 official languages. English is none of those. Their 4 official languages are French, German, Italian, and Romansh. or Romanche, I think is actually how it's pronounced. So when we were in Geneva, their actual official language of that region is French. So we had to try and learn and understand and speak as much French as we could while we were there. Which ended up working out for us. Honestly, like, many people really appreciate that we even made the effort, even if they would try to respond to us in French. The most innocent mistake that we made was thinking, oh, well, they have a Subway here. We know how to order from Subway in America, so it's got to be similar. And while, yes, the process is similar, you have to know a significant amount of French to be able to, you have to know a significant amount of any sort of local language to be able to order a Subway sandwich. Because you need to know how they greet you when they're asking you what kind of bread you want, how to order the kind of bread you want, how to order the kind of sandwich that you want, how to tell them what kind of cheese you want on there, how to tell them what kind of veggies you want on there, how to tell them what kind of sauce you want on there, how to tell them what kind of sides you want, whether you want a cookie or chips, what kind of drink you want. And then finally, you have to be able to, if you're in my instance and you're traveling with your girlfriend, you have to be able to tell them that you're together. And I didn't, I was doing great. Hannah willfully just decided to go all the way into English, well, like 90% into English. She would throw in like a few French words like non, beurre fromage, like certain things that like I had taught her ahead of time. And then we got to the register, and the lady said, God knows what, I can't remember what she said in French. And I just looked at her, and I was like, le sandwich d'il aussi, which means like, and the sandwich from her also. So somehow she got that, but then they just defaulted to English after that. They were like, oh, okay, he's not actually French. But I did appreciate that they tried to speak French with me as well. We are only 1 hour into the live stream, but we hit the ground running, guys. So many things. So when we first got into the line for Subway, I was trying to pay attention to how other people in front of us were ordering. So, vous êtes un personnage formidable. Merci beaucoup. It kind of translates to like you're a very noticeable or commanding person. So the first thing that when we got into the line, I was paying attention to people ordering ahead of me, so I kind of like was trying to pick out keywords. I was looking at the menu for some things that I knew so that I could like learn a few words. So like I learned that ham was hamon, which is Jambon, and cheese, fromage, obviously. I didn't know the words for the different cheeses specifically, but I never get cheese on my sandwich anyway. But I learned while I was in line that like to say no cheese isn't no cheese. You actually say not cheese, and that helped me later on. So I would say beurre fromage. Seabug still knows a little French, but he pronounces it bad. I'm the same way. I love him, but it's hard to listen to him do it. His might be better than mine, to be honest. So I learned that, and then I, luckily my sandwich, which I normally order an Italian BMT, which, get this, in French, is l'Italien BMT. I shit you not. That is how you order it. So I learned that, and then I had to try and figure out what the names of the breads were. Luckily, as soon as you get up to the counter, kind of like here in the US, wherever you are probably, if you have a Subway there, you may have noticed, they list the kinds of breads that you can order with pictures. So I said, bonjour. He said bonjour, and then he said something in French I didn't understand, but I assumed he asked me what kind of sandwich I wanted. So I said, oui, un Italien BMT, et nous, bon Italien, which is like, hello, yes, an Italian BMT on Italian bread. And he said something which I assumed meant, what kind of cheese do you want on it? And I said, no, pas fromage, pas fromage. And he said, okay. And then I realized I don't know the difference between, we use inches here in the US. You order either a 6-inch or a foot long when you're in Subway. Obviously, you don't do that in Europe because they don't use imperial units, even though that's where they're from. So, I decided the simplest thing to do would be to distinguish between petit et rond. So he reiterated, he said the same thing exactly in French. So I was like, okay, I missed something in translation. So I said, le petit, merci, le petit, merci, s'il vous plaît. And he was like, oh, okay, got it. Turns out that is actually what you're supposed to do. That's the distinguishing thing that they make. They don't say 6-inch or whatever. They just have small and large. Those are the two sizes that they have. I made it all the way to the register, basically, because when they got to the cheese, I said, non pas fromage. And then they got to the veggies, and I said to Hannah, I was like, listen, I got this. So they get to the veggies, and if you guys have ever been to Subway, you know they have a wide variety of things. They have like guacamole or avocado of some kind. They have red onions, peppers, spinach, lettuce, not anchovies, olives. They have a bunch of different things there. So I decided, I know 3 of these in French, and you won't believe which 3 I knew. So the lady turns around, she grabs my sandwich out of the oven, puts it in front of the greens. So I'm assuming she's asking me about the greens. And she says something légumes, something, which I know means vegetables. So I go, oui merci, le lettuce, les tomates, l'onion, which means the lettuce, the tomato, and the onion. So that obviously translated through, and then she got to the sauces and things, and I knew I didn't want anything else, so I just said sauce, so they just passed it along, and Hannah meanwhile is ordering everything in English, having the time of her life, and we get to the end, and I have to try and figure out how to order like 2 Pepsis, we're all together, tell me how much I owe you, and then pay in cash. And counting in French, by the way, is a pain. It is a pain in the butt. So luckily at that point the staff had defaulted back to English, and I figured it out after that. So yeah, that was interesting. But it was weird because we were constantly in line between or behind other people who did speak English, and maybe didn't speak as much French, and we constantly saw like shopkeepers and people like default to English immediately based on how people looked, but not with us for some reason, and I don't know why. I didn't, in my opinion, I didn't look like anyone else there, and neither did Hannah. Actually, we noticed that the first day that we were there, that like quote unquote long hair just like non-existent really until we got to Lille in France. All of the men had hair that was like not pulled back, but it was all like that, like short like that, like just a little bit on the top. God, that was interesting. There was also adjusting to the fact that in many places, you pay to use the restroom. And that was a lesson we learned very hard and fast. We decided that we would plan. We didn't really talk about it, but we kind of knew after a certain amount of time that we needed to plan, like, where we would use the restroom. So, like, sometimes we would plan to use it at the Airbnb before we left, if we knew that we were just going to the train station or the supermarket or something. And we would know that the next time that we would be able to use the bathroom would probably be at the next restaurant or boutique or some like very special place that we were going. Or we would use it on the train. ¿Cuántos idiomas hablas? Pues no, hablo dos. Más o menos hablo dos. Inglés y español hablo bueno. O hablo bien. Pero también entiendo una cantidad de francés y alemán. Pero para mí es más fácil leerlo en francés y alemán que escucharlo. Pero en español es lo mismo. Es que solo para mí es... creo que cuando hablo español sono como un niño. Porque en inglés es que sé tantas... Pues sabe. Yo sé más palabras en inglés que en español. Por eso creo que cuando hablo español, yo sono como un niño. Si tiene sentido, no sé. No sé si traducí bien. But yeah, sorry, everyone in English. I was just, he's asking, how many languages do you speak? And I said, well, I speak English and Spanish pretty well. But I can understand a good amount of German and French, but it's easier for me to read German and French. But in Spanish, it's the same thing. That doesn't distinguish one way or the other. I can listen or I can speak or read or whatever. But when I speak Spanish, I'm always worried that I sound like a child because I know so many more words in English. So I'm much more eloquent in English. Si suele pasar eso. I was at a Japanese hibachi restaurant back in 2018, and I still remember that when the chef gave me my food, I said arigato, which means thank you in Japanese, and he gave me more rice. It's the little things in life. El español es complicado, más con la variedad de palabras que van creando. Sí, pues por eso es más difícil hablar español en España. Y yo hablo el español más colombiano, creo. Pero mi español también es como un mixto de Colombia, Cuba, la Florida, México a veces y España. Por eso tengo un acento que es mío y no sé distinto de ninguna parte del mundo. Pues creo. It's the most Colombian thing about me is that I'll say pues constantly. O parce. I'm terrified of misidentifying someone and like speaking the wrong language based on this. I do that, yeah. I'm the same way. So when I was bartending at Dilworth Tasting Room, I was one of the few people on the floor who could speak Spanish. And because of that, I would constantly have coworkers that would come up to me and go, hey man, listen, I got this table. I'm pretty sure they don't speak a whole lot of English. Could you go over there and like maybe speak Spanish to them? There was a 50-50 chance that I would go up to that table and go, hola, lo siento, pero yo me llamo Nico. Yo hablo un poquito de español y yo te puedo ayudar. And there's a 50-50 chance that they would be like, oh, qué bueno, qué milagro, right? Like, what a miracle, right? And then there was another 50% chance that they would be like, hey, listen, we don't really know what you're talking about. So we are from Portugal. Or we are from Brazil. And then I would be, lo siento, je ne fale português. And then I would walk away, which is the only phrase that I know in Portuguese, which means I don't speak Portuguese. That happened twice. And after that, I said, stop asking me to speak Spanish to my tables, please. El español de Argentina te va a enloquecer. Es que pues creo que el español en Argentina sería más pues vismosa que el español en Colombia, ¿no? He's saying that the Spanish in Argentina will drive you crazy, and I said, well, I thought it was the same as the Spanish in Colombia. Lo que a mí me fastidia en realidad es el español que se habla en Honduras. Pues en serio no entiendo casi ni un palabra. ¿Palabra? That's why I was so hesitant to say anything at the restaurant. It's hard for me. I never really default to Spanish until I hear them speak Spanish. And sometimes that's worse. Like because it's almost, people feel like they've been surprised when they're trying to speak English with you, and then they speak Spanish, and then you speak Spanish. They either feel surprised or they feel patronized. When you're like, oh, I can, meet you there, I guess. I don't know. But I get mixed reviews when I do stuff like that, so it's easier for me to just stay in English and pretend to be an idiot. There are certain things that, like, when they say it in Spanish, I'll jump on. If there's somebody at a table and it's a wife and a mom and her daughter speaking Spanish to each other, and I have been speaking English. Si yo llego a una mesa y la mamá está hablando en español con su hija y yo estaba hablando en inglés, yo me voy escuchando until I hear one of them say something very important. Hasta que llego a escuchar algo que está muy importante, como oh, but I don't like cheese. O pues para mí no me gusta queso. Y después de eso se van pidiendo algo que se llega con queso, que se venga con queso, algo así. And after that they ask for something that comes with cheese. Cuando eso se pasa, yo los interrumpe en español para decirlos, pues mira, es que eso se llega con queso sin modificarlo. Si tengo razón, if that makes sense. Meaning, like, listen, that comes with cheese unless you modify it. Hace unos meses vino gente de Brasil en moto y les dieron diésel a la... Oh, no. Ok, pues en español, primero. Hace unos meses que vino gente de Brasil en moto y les dieron diésel a las Harley por equivocación de idiomas. So basically, these people arrived from Brazil, and they arrived on a Harley. They arrived on a motorcycle, and they gave them diesel because they got confused by the language. Aquí en los Estados Unidos se puede pasar la misma cosa, porque aquí se piden gas, simplemente gas. Pero si vienes de Europa o Inglaterra, ahí no se dicen gas, se dicen petróleo, o pues ahí se dicen petrol. Y por eso cuando llegan aquí, a veces personas no sé qué sería la diferencia entre petróleo o diésel, y por eso la misma cosa se puede lograr, puede pasar aquí en los Estados Unidos también. I'm just saying that the same thing can happen in the United States, because we call it gas, but if you arrive here from like Europe, they would call it petrol. So if you don't know the difference, you might think that petrol means diesel. Aquí se dice gas oil al diésel y nafta a la gasolina. ¿No se piden gasolina así mismo? ¿O simplemente gas? O pues puede ser que gas significa como aire, ¿no? Creía que en Colombia por lo menos solo se pide gas. He's saying that where he is in Argentina, you say gas, oil, al diesel. So you say like diesel, gas, oil, y nafta a la gasolina. So you say se piden gasolina, si se piden nafta. It sounds like he's saying you ask for nafta if you want gas, what we would call petrol. Así se piden como petróleo, solo se pide nafta. O se pide nafta a la gasolina. We're gonna get to the bottom of this. Also, fun fact, the next international trip that I am going to take with Hannah, we're gonna take Rosalie with us as well. I'm gonna try to the best of my ability. I'm gonna try and take as much of my family as I can, which has been a costly habit for the last few years, but I'm going to try, and I'm going to try and bring them to Colombia, and I'm going to try, God willing, to bring my grandparents with me. Before that, it's not my trip, but before that, I think I'm going to try to either help Reggie, my cousin Reggie in Belgium, to come here by himself, or to help Shirley come here with her daughter and her, oh my god, I'm a bad cousin, I can't remember if they're married or not, but her daughter and her partner, I'm going to try and invite them here, and if somehow I hit the lottery or something, I'm going to try and bring, Alexandra. It was boy. I mispronounce his name a lot. I'm gonna try and bring him, his wife, and his kids, if I can. There's also Maximilian, Romani de Charles. Charles is the other one that I might try to bring. Aside from that, maybe if I bring Shirley, I may try and bring Bertrand and his other kids. I don't know. I want them to come back over here because while I had the chance to reconnect with them, I want to give them a chance to reconnect with their uncle, or for some of them, their brother here in the United States. Hola, ¿cómo está? Hola. Pues eso, ¿cómo se dice en español? Tiene tantos H's. Head G. Bienvenido. Muchísimas gracias para visitarnos. ¿Cómo estás? Gas lo piden los autos que llevan gas, GNC y nafta. Ok. Me voy a tomar un Laguna Azul. He's gonna drink a Blue Lagoon. Bueno, pues buena suerte. Hopefully, you know, it all goes well. Good luck. And Headed, pues yo me paso bueno todavía. Creo que sí. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Muchísimas gracias para llegar aquí. ¿Cuántos ya nos hace pasar 1 hora y medio? Creo que ya tengo. Okay, English and Spanish. I'm gonna try to do the two. I think I have enough time to drink another beer. Creo que tengo tiempo para tomar una cerveza más. Okay, this one's gonna be cold. Y esta va a ser frío. Ya mira que ya tiene menos gas, menos actividad, pero ya, sí todavía tiene. you can tell it has less gas, but it still has a lot of activity. Okay. Raise them if you got them. You don't have to have a glass. And if you do have a glass, you don't have to have alcohol in it. But thank you all for tuning in, sticking around, showing up. I do appreciate it. Here's to you all. Cheers. Santé. Salud. Et Prost. It's so good. Listen. It's so good. Está tan bueno. Por los que no sepan, esta fue una cerveza que creemos aquí en el bar. We made it here in the bar. That went away so fast. What do you mean? What went away so fast? We still have a lot of those, by the way. This is... I'm proud. I think the cheat code, honestly, I think the thing that we did that really made a difference here is using the agave syrup as the bottling agent. Creo que los que hablan español, ayúdame aquí. Se dicen en inglés pues en inglés se dice carbonate. Y creo que en español es la misma cosa, se dicen carbonizar. Creo que carbonizar significa como para quemar algo, ¿no? Oh, got it. Okay, the head went away so fast. Yeah, the gas. But if it tastes good, it's a win. Yeah. So the reason that happens, forgive me, I'm not going to be able to articulate this in Spanish. The reason that happens is because when it's cold, it reacts to the nucleation sites much more slowly, so the gas doesn't escape from the solution as quickly. It's good and bad. The reason that you would want that in a cold beer would be to mask undesirable flavors, because that effervescence will happen on your palate because you have more nucleation sites along your taste buds than you do in a glass, which is smooth, or should be. The other thing is that when it's cold, obviously it's harder to taste some harsh flavors. I've tried this warm, so I know that there is not any harsh flavors. That sounds like a humble brag. I'm sorry. How? I don't know how to not do that. Did I screw it up? It's funny. Good job though. Okay, good. Thank you. And I'm sorry. Yeah, it's complicated, but this is actually really good, and I'm really proud of this. I'm convinced that it's the agave syrup that we used at the end that is making a world of difference. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a big callback. I've been sick for like the last week. I've had a cold since I got back from Switzerland. I said before that you should never test more than one thing. You should never change more than one variable when you're making something new, so that you know what it is that you're changing that is affecting your outcome. That's a very scientific thing to think. And I said that I'm an idiot, so I changed two things. It turns out I am not actually an idiot. I am a super idiot, because I changed three things that I forgot about. The other thing that we changed was we used a grain mill to quadruple mill and ultra fine mill the actual grains that we used to make this, which did make it hyperactive. Now that wouldn't have very much effect on this final product exactly. It would increase the ABV because it would increase the reaction rate in your primary fermentation, but it wouldn't affect your secondary fermentation or your bottling at all. So all of the sweetness and everything in here, I think, is due to the yeast not being able to process all of the agave syrup that we used. That's my best guess. I am not a professional, and I am barely a scientist. So, here we are. I think it's really good. I'm not going to, for legal reasons. ATF and ALE. I'm not going to sell this, but I think I could, honestly. Damn. It's like, oh, it's like an Altbier. An Altbier is a German style of beer. Alt just means old. It's wheat and barley based. It's got this really nice sweet finish that I just can't get over, even when it's cold. It's not too hoppy. It's just hoppy enough to be like aromatic, if that makes sense. So you can just barely, like, you can smell enough that it does add to the texture and flavor of this. It's a lot of like lavender and pine needles and things like that, but not so much that it feels like an Alpine beer. I have to go, but this stream was a lot of fun. APM, thank you for tuning in, sticking around. I do appreciate it. Hopefully we see you in the next live stream. Until then, take care of yourself, be good, be kind, be helpful, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in. It's science if you log your findings, so I think you are. We are. And in point of fact, and thank you for the segue, this whole process has actually been a practice run for a longer project that is actually meant to be very scientific, that my brother and Dylan and I are embarking on together to test whether we can make a beer from scratch. And I don't want to give too much away, but we're trying to figure out if we can make a beer from scratch with added nutritional value. And we have a few theories on how we can get that done. But because we're trying to be scientific about it, I have 14 pages of handwritten notes that are not here, but they have been on a separate live stream. And I've digitized those. I need to make data sheets for our results, and we have a crowdfunding video and campaign and stuff ready to go for that, because the nature of making this stuff from scratch means that we have to be able to source a whole lot of grains and a whole lot of all of these other things, because we want to make more than one batch of this stuff. We want to have like actual findings that we can present, and hopefully if we record them correctly and if we do everything correctly, we can present these things as a scientific study. And if we can do that, then pretty much the sky's the limit. I don't want to give too much away, but we're how. And we did that. This is great, honestly. So this is a very good first step. That's why we were all doing and working on this together. Bye, loud and clear, Captain. Thank you. I promise there will be more information. There's going to be a lot of information in the crowdfunding video when it finally drops. But until I have the green light from my staff and stuff to do that, because we're all trying to get on the same page with this long project that I actually started about a month ago. Month and a half ago. Until we're all on the same page on that, I'm playing a lot of that stuff very close to the chest, if you guys are familiar with that phrase. So yeah, I don't want to be very like deep, dark, and secret about this stuff, because I'm doing it for the community mostly, and a large emphasis of this isn't just like trying to do it so that we can sell it. That's like our last stretch goal. We're trying to do this and show you guys how you can do it at home and how easy it is, because we did this out of a kit. Like I'm not gonna. It was a gift to me, so I'm not going to tell you guys how much it costs because that would be rude. But we did this with a very affordable 1-gallon kit, and I've opened 2 bottles leisurely here. I think I still have about 9 bottles of this stuff sealed away, and it tastes phenomenal. I would rather drink this than go to a bar and order pretty much anything. So yeah, we're trying to use all of the stuff that we've learned from brewing cider, wine, mead, beer, and everything so far, and recycle that into this, upcycle that into this process that we have now for what we're calling an Uber beer. And hopefully it goes well. We're using alternative grains, alternative bittering agents. We're using pretty much every nuanced step. Well, we're using probably 70 to 80% of the really like small intricate steps that you can use in brewing a beer at home to figure out what is the most that you can get from your beer if you make it at home, and what are the ingredients that will go further than others, if that makes sense. And that's probably as much as I can talk about it without somebody coming and beating me to death with a bat. So I keep all my tips in cash just at home, at least until I can get to a bank or ATM to deposit it. I got a pretty good board going. Oh yeah, we oh my god, at home
I just hit.
we keep our tips in like a glass box. You heard me right. You heard me right. And also, Electrical Cake, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the new follow. I appreciate it. But you heard me right. A glass box. So what that means is that if you wanted to break into the house and take all of our cash, it would be one of the first things that you would see. But 2, the thing is filled with like quarters and stuff. It's pretty heavy and it's unwieldy because there are no handles. It's all sharp edges all the way around. The only way to really move it would be to try and like scoot it to the edge of the console, the TV console that it's on, and then try and like scoot your hands under it, and then you would have to try and carry it out like this. So you're probably not going to get very far like that. You're definitely going to have somebody calling the police on you, at least in my neighborhood. Yeah, and that's you'd be better off trying to steal stuff out of my office if you could get past the dogs and into the office, which is already a chore in and of itself sometimes. But yeah, our investments are very safe in my house, but we have the same thing. I pitched the idea to Hannah. Another kind of box would be about the same security level. Lol. Hey, whoa now, not on my Christian Minecraft server. I pitched the idea to, it's actually funny. I pitched the idea to Hannah of like taking, I have more of these. Also, you guys haven't seen these very well. These are just regular little jars that I keep some regular bar stuff in, like coarse ground coffee or like beetroot powder if I want to make something red. I have activated charcoal in these. I have some powdered spice chai. I have some powdered milk chocolate in those. But I pitched the idea to Hannah of taking one of those and kind of turning it into like a piggy bank. But here's the twist. We only fill it with the money we can't use while we're in the US. So that means like we would put all of our like euro coins in there, all of our Swiss franc coins, pesos, which I happen to have. I have some Chinese won, I have some Korean yuan, and just any like Monopoly money, like poker chips, like things that we can't really use, but like accepting those as tips, especially because like I can't sell stuff here, and I wouldn't want to anyway. I feel like that would be a really fun set piece for people. Like, drop something in here. Anything. Literally anything. Put something in the tip jar. And then just, like, having this big collection of stuff like that afterwards when we're done. I would like that. I feel like that would be really fun. And then maybe, like, epoxy sealing it later on. Chuck E. Cheese tokens? Yes, absolutely. As long as someone doesn't come through with like a, here's a winning lottery ticket, I'd be like, yeah, let me just take that. We'll put that in there later. if somebody did that, you would have to have. Just don't. If you did that to me, I would take it, cash it, and give you the money for it, probably. Or at least most of the money for it. If it was like a $400 million jackpot, I'd be like, hey, I'm paying the taxes on it since I'm claiming it. So I'm gonna keep 10 million, and then you guys can keep the rest of that stuff. I'm weird with money. I've always been weird with money. It was one of the most frustrating things with the people that I used to work with, because I think in the service industry, like, money is king for so many people, and I had to make the conscious decision, and I'm fortunate that I could even decide to do this, but I forced myself to not be motivated by money. Again, incredibly entitled, incredibly fortunate to be able to make that decision and keep it, and make it last. But because of that, it was, I was driven a little bit harder than some people. I was a little bit more reliable than some people. And it also made it very hard for my management and the ownership of the bar to work with me sometimes. Because they would look at me and they'd be like, hey man, we really need you to close on Sunday. And I'd be like, oh, fucking weird, because that's outside of my availability. And they would respond with, well, listen, I know it's outside of your availability, but normally, bartender on that night walks away with about $300. And then I'd go, that's unfortunate. I guess that the server's gonna get twice as much money. Now, did I need $300? Yes! Did I want $300? Yes. But in principle, I always felt like if I began to do it for the money, I would start to do it less for the people I was serving. Which is a really stupid romantic notion. But it's kept me humble. It's kept me humble. It's kept me true. And it's made me feel better about the work. It's kept me humble. It's kept me true. And it's helped me feel better about the work that I do. It's not meant to rhyme, but it happens too. Yeah, so I don't know. It's just, that's the way I'm wired. Maybe it's something my dad taught me a long time ago, because he was always the kind of person to go the extra mile even if he wasn't being paid for it. And I was already doing that behind the bar. I was already like remembering people's names, remembering people's drink orders, and doing all this stuff, even if it didn't affect my bottom line and it didn't affect how much I was being paid. I was constantly trying to figure out, how do I make sure that people have the best experience possible when they come into the bar? How do I tell the best stories? How do I make the best drinks? How do I move quickly? How can I be entertaining? How can I be magnetizing when I'm behind the bar, even if I can't get to talk to people and I can't get to make eye contact with people? And that's why, among other things too, like, you can talk to my coworkers about this if you really wanted to. It was one of the main reasons why, if we were busy, it was because I was 3 deep at the bar and my other bartender was bored. Prove me wrong. I'm not going to name names. I have worked with a lot of bartenders that could keep up and do really well. Actually, probably. I'm reluctant to point this out because he doesn't necessarily have the best reputation at times, but one of the best bartenders that I ever got to the pleasure of working with, he's got, unfortunately, an awful reputation here in the city, probably many places as well, is my friend Chad, who... we worked together very well because our styles of bartending were complementary to one another. I want to crank out drinks, and I want people to just look at me the way you would watch TV. I want people to watch me, like, move behind the bar, doing stuff, like I'm performing a magic trick, right? Like you're watching Blue Man Group. That's what I want to do. Chad, my friend, loved to be in people's faces. Not so much making drinks and stuff like... He could whip up a mean drink if he really wanted to. He could do it once in a while. But I would crank out the significant majority of the drinks at the bar when we were working together. And it was great. I loved it. Because he could talk to people. And especially strangers. And his superpower was introducing people. It wasn't just talking to people. So he would go up to a group of people and he would go, "Hey guys, what's up? We having a good time? My name's Chad. What are your names?" "Okay, sweet. Ryan and Kelly? Ryan and Kelly? My name's Chad. I just told you that. This is Nico back here. He's probably not going to say a whole lot. He is making a bunch of drinks right now. But if you need him, just ask for him. His name's Nico. My name's Chad. And these people next to you, their names are Brian and Shirley. So, Brian, Shirley, Ryan and Kelly, you guys get to know each other? Alright, I'll be right back." That was his cheat code. He would get people at the bar to talk to each other so that they wouldn't distract us behind the bar. And maybe it's just the atmosphere of the bar that I was working at, but it was magical to watch it happen. And somehow he managed to be able to judge it and pull it off in such a way that it was never extraneous for any of the people that we were serving at the time. We never had anybody who was like, I could give two shits about the people who were sitting next to us. I don't care. In fact, move them one seat down. We never had anybody like that. Or if we did, I didn't know about it. That is a clever trick. Yep. That was his secret power. My secret power was my fifth gear, which is what the servers and the other bartenders called it. My secret power was that if I didn't have to talk to anybody, I could serve the entire bar. I had to do it more times than I'd like to admit. But that's one of the reasons why I worked so well with Chad, because Chad could talk to everyone as long as he wasn't making a drink. And I could make all of the drinks as long as I wasn't talking to anyone. So when we were both back there, we just needed one well. And I would kill it. And because it was one bartender making all the drinks, they were all consistent. They were all hopefully good. I'm not going to toot my own horn. Like, I'm not God's gift to bartending. I'm sure I fucked up a lot of them. But they all tasted good. None of the drinks really came back. Ever. The bar station was clean because I never send a drink out until I'm done cleaning my setup, which was really frustrating for the servers a few times. But it kept me on track. You knock them out, he keeps them distracted. Yeah. He hits them high, I hit them low. I really enjoyed working with him. I had a similar dynamic with a few other people. And I'm also like kind of I've been able to adapt depending on who I'm working with. Like, I've worked really well with Drew behind the bar as well. I worked really well with Philip behind the bar. Alejandro. But sometimes I was working really well because I was able to adjust and evolve and survive, adapt, overcome all that nonsense. That really is the suspense is killing me. But Drew and Philip are probably the two closest to that same dynamic, where if they were behind the bar with me, I would just say, I would have 3 shakers or some nonsense, and they would be like, "Hey man, you look really busy. Do you need? Can I do anything for you right now?" And I'd be like, "I'm trying to make a point here, so bear with me." I would be like, "Yeah, you can talk to all the people at the bar. Just talk to them. Make sure they're okay. Make sure they're not waiting on any drinks." And all 3, yeah. I'll bring Drew on here. He'll tell you about me shaking 3 cocktails at once. I didn't do it like that. Typically, when I was shaking 3 cocktails. If I was shaking 3 cocktails, actually, I would normally do it like this. And I would only do it for really simple sour builds, like nothing with egg white, because you have to either dry shake it or reverse dry shake it first. But if I was doing like a 3-component, something like a gimlet or a daiquiri, or meaning like if you were doing a gimlet without Rose's lime cordial and you were doing lime juice and simple syrup. Sometimes I would do this for margaritas, but if I had 3 like this, I would shake them like this. Which is very tiring, especially when it's filled with ice and water and a bunch of other stuff. Ice and water. Ice and liquor. That would it that somehow wasn't my superpower. It was that I could do that working flair, talking to people, and somehow, against all odds, I would still crank out more drinks than the people I was working with. I'm a little bit bitter. That's one of the reasons I left. They're doing fine. They're doing great now. I just I was burning myself out because that's the kind of person that I am. I put myself I try and dive 100% into everything that I'm doing, which is why I got tennis elbow in both of my arms. I hurt my legs. I was constantly cut up from work. Not like ha 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 cut up, but like sliced up on my hands. I would take on more prep work than the other bartenders. Show up early. Whatever our pars were for the day, I would always go 25 to 50% more than. So if they were like, hey, we need to make sure we have 2 quart containers of simple syrup for a Saturday, I would always go, yeah, okay. And I would make 2.5 quarts or 3 quarts of simple syrup. If they were like, hey, our par for lime juice, because we would juice it fresh for the day, meaning that we would slice the limes, we would juice them, and that's the juice we would use for the day, and we would toss it at the end of the night. We never had enough. So if I was opening for lime juice, never for lemon juice, because you don't really use that so much in cocktails, I would always go 25 to 50% more. So they would say, we need 2 250 mils. No, we need 1 250 mil in each well, and then we need a 1 quart backup. So that's already complicated because quarts are imperial units and milliliters are metric units. So that's what was it? 500 milliliters is 50 ounces. So it's still less than about a gallon. I would make an extra quart of a 1.5 quart of lime juice. And the lime juice that we didn't use, I would take it home and I would turn it into lime cordial for this bar, which I think I only ever had to do twice. Yeah, going up to 5th gear too often. It's, I can't not do it. I don't have control over when that part of my brain shuts off that allows everything else to run wild. I wish I did, because that's like my superpower. But for me, I can't do that until I know that everyone is being taken care of. So either no one is sitting at the bar, or I need the GM or the bar manager to be talking to everyone at the bar. And if I can have those things, I can crack out drinks in 30 seconds to a minute each. I feel like I need to bring Drew back on. I'll bring Drew and Justin back on here to justify all of these claims of mine. because I know that it sounds probably pretty far-fetched, especially from like one of the leading cocktail bars in Charlotte. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to be a downer here at the end. But thank you all for tuning in, sticking around, showing up. It's been about 2 hours. I really appreciate you all being here. I really seriously can't do this stuff when you guys don't show up. You all give me so much energy. Thank you so much. Lilith, thank you so much for interacting in chat. Everyone, thank you for interacting in chat. Thank you for all of your help and support. Hopefully I have been helpful and supportive as well, since that's why we do everything that we do here. The next live stream is going to be tomorrow, 7 p.m. EST. Same time, same place. I am going to be back here behind the bar, God willing. And I think Dylan will be back here, and you guys can get his honest reaction to the beer. I am going to put another one here in the fridge so that he can try it warm and cold. I might try it warm. I'll let him try it cold because, in my opinion, it's a little bit better like this. But, Camera One, thank you guys once again for being here. I do appreciate it. Hopefully we see you all in the next live stream tomorrow, 7 p.m. EST. Until then, be good, be kind, be helpful, and I'll see you all in the next live stream. Take care. Donate to Ukraine.